They have already begun campaigns for 2027. Let me say one thing about what my colleagues have said. I will answer your question. As senators, really, there are things that I don't expect a senator to say. If the document says, Hillary, that we must protect devolution so that there are no clawbacks, if the national government wants to undertake county functions, there is a procedure.
CDF.
There is a procedure for that. You cannot be supporting it, and yet you are sworn to defend devolution, devolved units, and their governments. Thirdly, Trevor, if indeed Ogenda was honest about dealing with the question of marginalization, there is a fund established under this constitution called the Equalization Fund. He would be pushing for the national government to honor its obligations under that particular fund, so that all of us who have faced marginalization, and I've said, all of us who support Raila Odinga, we have been marginalized, and Raila Odinga is a leader of all of us. Let us also not forget William Ruto's role in that marginalization. In the past 10 years, it is this same William Ruto who was deputy president of the Republic. So when that marginalization was happening, as they are saying these days, how has he suddenly become clever? Where was he in 2013, 2020, when all these road projects were being taken to these other areas? When we in ODM were being marginalized by the Jubilee administration under his stewardship together with the former president, where was this cleverness? Where was this cleverness that we are hearing from here? Now, to your question, lastly, there is something he said here that the president has championed the devolution. Last year, in fact, it was the last financial year. We were shocked as a Senate. We passed a bill, the Division of Revenue Bill, allocating 385 billion Kenya shillings to county governments. The president brought it back with a memorandum suggesting that we as a Senate cut that allocation back to 380. This is the same president who stood up recently and said, awachiwe barabara za county. The constitution under the 4th schedule defines 2 levels of roads, national roads and county roads. A supporter of devolution cannot stand up and say, muniwachi hizi barabara. Hillary, let us be honest even in these discussions, that if there is an enemy of devolution, you say this is an enemy of devolution because of his own conduct and his words. If it were not for us as a Senate to stand up and say we cannot send money that is less than what we had allocated, even in the previous financial year, counties would not have gotten this 387. That was not William Ruto. It was me as a senator sitting in the mediation committee with the National Assembly fighting for those resources as I swore to do. To your question, Trevor, ODM, we have said repeatedly, including as recently as when we were in Mombasa, for an event there with Honorable Raila Odinga, that ODM exists to fight for political power in these democratic processes. We still intend, we have not given up our quest to lead this country. So we will be in the field to face whoever it is else will be there, including President William Ruto. And the natural consequence of that is we will make him a one-term president because we want to grab that power from him, so that we can do the things that we are saying we believe in. That is my straight answer. And it doesn't matter how cleverly you people frame this question. My views are never going to change, Trevor, because I still continue to receive feedback that even with this so-called,
call it broad-based. There's no harm. Call it broad-based.
This so-called development tours. He is still facing a lot of resistance. Tom Ogenda, my brother, let us focus on software issues as well. I was explaining to Oburu because he said, which other rights do you want, you people? If you have gotten roads, if you have got... That's not all it is about, There are software issues in this country. I have said here that we want a democratic state, and which is what this document says. Unaona, Trevor, these people don't want to read this document, or they don't want me to...
But I've read it.
A nation will not develop without reinforcing democratic governance and the rule of law. My brother, democratic governance is such that you cannot go after the BBC for just telling you that this is what happened. Why are you arresting young people for producing a film about events that we all saw? I was there in Parliament. Those things happened. The BBC is not fabricating anything. And in fact, all your media houses, including Citizen TV, covered these events. So why are you arresting people for just expressing themselves. That is running contrary to this document.
Okay. Yeah. So you're confirming that ODM will field a presidential candidate?
I am saying this political party called ODM exists for only one sole purpose. We are not like Third Way Alliance, which exists to go to court. We exist to compete for political power. So ODM has not given that up. In 2027, we will field candidates for all positions.
A good one to be
just a comeback
to come for the burial in Homa Bay Friday. Context is important, Trevor. I was trying to persuade my brother to provide context, not to ask for video, to provide context for the words that came from the party chairperson, the Honorable Gladys Wanga. Number one, she referred to a previous incident. Just a few weeks before this incident, there was another burial there in Homa Bay. And some youths who are sponsored and dressed in UDA colors came to that particular funeral and misbehaved. That is the context within which she spoke. I am personally very averse to going to these burials where people come dressed in political colors. But you'll forgive us on Friday because it was Ongondo Were's wish that he be buried in ODM colors. So if you see ODM there, don't say, oh, Sifuna said we should not dress like that. But yesterday at the memorial, both the governor of Homa Bay and the senator of Homa Bay invited every person from every color to come to mourn this great leader. And we gave assurances that for as long as we all respect the decorum, we expect to have a peaceful send-off for the Honorable Ongondo Were. Now, secondly, Trevor, I can forgive Salasia for refusing to read this document and assuming Sifuna signed it. But I cannot forgive Professor Ojienda. Because, Professor, you are a lawyer. When you see people running away from a document, and that's the reason I have brought this thing here, because there's been a lot of nonsense being said about the contents of this document. Luckily for us, all of us here, we are lawyers. They know about the parole evidence rule, that once the contents of an agreement have been reduced into a document, you do not introduce oral evidence to explain its contents because the document will speak for itself. The people who are supporters of this animal, called broad-based, are running away from the contents of the document. That is why the president gets annoyed with me when I remind him what the document says. So when you see Ojienda coming and telling us, oh, there is the document, then there is a philosophy. Read the document. This document is not what brought the former chairperson of ODM into government. As I've said, Trevor, that so-called broad-based animal started existing in Ruto's mind before this document was signed. This document was signed on 7th of February 2025. By that time, Mbadi, Joho, and the others were already in cabinet. This document is not the reason why they are there. And if you want to understand the discussions that went prior, the philosophy is captured here, Ojienda, that we understand that a nation will not develop without reinforcing democratic governance and the rule of law. And I wish, Trevor, you brought to me on this show alone, so that I can explain to you the contents of this document, so that people like Ojienda don't introduce things that are not there. You are a professor of law. Please don't behave like Salasia. Read the document so that you understand and explain to your people what it says. Number three, Trevor, he has made an assertion here that I was angling for cabinet.
Gender
Ministry of Gender. I understand why he said gender, because he knows I'm very loved by the ladies, which is not something we can say about him. But the truth is, I have no intention. Of serving in a government such as the one that is in existence.
So you would never take a cabinet position?
I would never. In fact, they know.
We've seen some of your own people like Professor Makau Mutua say never, then he comes in.
I am not Makau Mutua. I am not any one of these people.
So for the record, you would never take us.
I don't know how I can put it. I have no intention. I am very happy serving the people of Nairobi as a senator of Nairobi. And even in 2027, I've said I will not seek any other office other than the office of senator of Nairobi. I am happy where I am. When he speaks about marginalization, you know, this is a very interesting conversation from two perspectives. Number one, all of us who support Raila Odinga have been marginalized because of our politics. I want you to understand that point, that ODM and the leader of ODM, Raila Odinga, is not a leader of the Luo. He's not a leader of Luo Nyanza. Raila Odinga is a leader of Kenya. his people, including Sifuna, who doesn't come from Luo Nyanza, has been marginalized because of the position we have taken to support him. You go to the coast, you go to people in North Rift. I went to Baringo. I have my chairman there called Wesley Lekakimon. He's being marginalized because of his position as chairperson of ODM in Baringo. If you took another angle, Trevor, list for me the areas in this country that are marginalized. My goodness. From independence, Honorable Ojienda, are you telling me that it is only Luo Nyanza that is marginalized? What would you say to the people of Turkana, people who have no access to water 60 years after independence? If we truly were addressing marginalization, you would see John Mbadi telling us how he has helped the Ilchamus in Baringo as a people who are marginalized. The problem we have is when you characterize Luo Nyanza as the only marginalized area. If really we are addressing marginalization agenda, give us a list of the people of Mandera. You have an international airport in Kisumu. I went to Mandera and there is no runway. There is no runway. The plane lands on that. There is no electricity in Mandera. So when you are peddling your transformers there, when I see CS Energy saying, oh, we're putting these transformers here and there, remember the people of Mandera are not even on the national grid. So please, my brother, we are not saying that the people of Luo Nyanza or Western Kenya have not been marginalized. Let us approach marginalization as a national problem. And we are national leaders, Ojenda. You are a senator for the Republic of Kenya, elected by the people of Kisumu. Speak for other people as well. We know you represent the people of Kisumu. We have no problem with that. So when we talk about marginalization, let us look at it as a national problem. Lastly, on this MOU, when Trevor, we are told that there was a discussion on the issues. These are the issues. We spoke about devolution. For us to get the leader of UDA to sign this document, in fact, when we were preparing this document was prepared in my office in KICC. So I know the document. Others are asking me, oh, but Sifuna, why were you there? As SG of ODM, I don't speak for myself. I am not present in these events to represent Sifuna. As you know, we had a meeting of the Central Committee that morning to ratify this document. Yeah. And I went there to confirm to the country that the committee, that is the job of SG, that the committee has looked at this document and we have endorsed it. Because these are the issues that ODM believes in. The first issue there, it is to implement priority issues that came out of NADCO, including the cost of living, youth and employment. We have talked about devolution, which he speaks about. It talks about defending against any clawback on devolved functions. When you see Raila Odinga saying the president should not be building markets, it is a devolved function. This is what this document speaks about. Devolving all funds allocated to devolved functions. When you see Raila saying release money meant for roads, it is pursuant to this agreement. When he says increase budgetary allocation, when I stand up during the burial of George Odwor and I say you agreed to increase budgetary allocation to counties to 450 billion Kenya shillings, not 405. Yeah. The president gets annoyed and threatens to call founder members of ODM to discipline the SG of ODM. Because it is my responsibility. Agenda will not do this. I am the person who is responsible for this marking scheme. Timely and predictable disbursement of devolved funds. Yeah. This is something we fight over. Agenda is talking about 70 billion going to you to where? Even as we speak today, Trevor, counties have not received money since February, since this agreement was signed. So when we remind these people of what the document is, that is why you see they run away. Okay. They run away because they are failing. I have given them an E out of these issues, and I could go on and on. Out of these issues, there is nothing they have done. I think the only thing no. That's what I'm saying. My job, it is 2 months later, Hillary, my job as SG, I have the marking scheme. I can show you all these issues here, none of which you have done. I think the only one you have tried is opportunities in public appointments, and I think we are in the first budget cycle. We want to see equitable budgetary resource allocation in this current budget. So, Trevor, when you say I am sabotaging, by reminding us of our own commitments, you are being unfair. Because this is a document I know by heart. I was there when it was being prepared. As I've told you, it was done in my office, you know. So the people who are jittery when Sifuna reminds us of our obligations, of the things that we promised to do, are the ones sabotaging this government.
Okay.
They are not me.
Prof.